LETTER the 43rd of Life in Mexico. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Life in Mexico by Francis Calderón de la Barca. Letter the 43rd. Revillagigedo, the false merchant and the lady, the viceroy, the unjust Spaniard, the Indian and the golden ounces. Horrible murder. Details. Oath. Country family. The spot of blood. The mother unknowingly denounces her son. Arrest of the three. Confession. Execution. The viceroy fulfills his pledge. Paving of the streets. Severity to the monks. Solitary damsel. Box on the ear. Pension. Morning concert. New minister. Street of the sad Indian. Traditions. A farewell audience. Inscription on a tomb. August 3rd. A lady of fortune, owing to some combination of circumstances, found herself in difficulties, and in immediate want of a small sum of money. Don being her compadre, and a respectable merchant, she went to him to state her necessities, and offered him a case of valuable jewels, as security for repayment, provided he would advance her $800. He agreed, and the bargain was concluded without any written document, the lady depositing her jewels and receiving the sum. At the end of a few months, her temporary difficulties being ended, she went to her compadre's house to repay the money, and receive back her jewels. The man readily received the money, but declared to his astonished comadre that as to the jewels he had never heard of them, and that no such transaction had taken place. The lady, indignant at the merchant's treachery, instantly repaired to the palace of the vice king, hoping for justice from this Western Solomon, though unable to conceive how it could be obtained. She was instantly received by Revillagigedo, who listened attentively to her account of the circumstances. "Had you no witnesses?" said the count. "None," replied she. "Did no servant pass in or out during the transaction?" "No one." The viceroy reflected a moment. "Does your compadre smoke?" "No, sir," said the lady, astonished at this irrelevant question, and perhaps the more so, as the count's aversion to smoking was so well known, that none of his smoking subjects ventured to approach him without having taken every precaution to deaden any odour of the fragrant weed which might lurk about their clothes or person. "Does he take snuff?" said the viceroy. "Yes, your Excellency," said his visitor, who probably feared that for once his Excellency's wits were wool gathering. "That is sufficient," said the viceroy. "Retire into the adjoining chamber, and keep quiet. Your jewels shall be restored." His Excellency then dispatched a messenger for the merchant, who immediately presented himself. "I have sent for you," said the viceroy, "that we may talk over some matters in which your mercantile knowledge may be of use to the state." The merchant was overwhelmed with gratitude and joy, while the viceroy entered into conversation with him upon various affairs connected with his profession. Suddenly the viceroy put his hand first in one pocket, then in the other, with the air of a man who has mislaid something. "Ah," said he, "my snuff box. Excuse me for a moment while I go to fetch it from the next room." "Sir," said the merchant, "permit me to have the honour of offering my box to your Excellency." His Excellency received it as if mechanically, holding it in his hand and talking, till, pretexting some business, he went out, and calling an officer, desired him to take that snuff box to the merchant's house, asking his wife, as from him by that token, to deliver to the bearer a case of jewels which he had there. The viceroy returned to the apartment where he had left his flattered guest, and remained in conversation with him until the officer returned, and requesting private speech of the viceroy, delivered to him a jewel case which he had received from the merchant's wife. Revillagigedo then returned to his fair complainant, and under pretence of showing her some rooms in the palace, led her into one where amongst many objects of value the jewel case stood open. No sooner had she cast her eyes upon it than she started forward in joy and amazement. The viceroy requested her to wait there a little longer and return to his other guest. "Now," said he, before going further, "I wish to hear the truth concerning another affair in which you are interested. Are you acquainted with Señora de ?" "Intimately, sir. She is my comadre." "Did you lend her $800 at such a date?" "I did." "Did she give you a case of jewels in pledge?" "Never," said the merchant vehemently. "The money was lent without any security, merely as an act of friendship, and she has invented a story concerning some jewels which has not the slightest foundation." In vain the viceroy begged him to reflect, and not by adding falsehood to treachery force him to take measures of severity. The merchant with oaths persisted in his denial. The viceroy left the room suddenly and returned with the jewel case in his hand, at which unexpected apparition the astonished merchant changed colour and entirely lost his presence of mind. The viceroy ordered him from his presence with a severe rebuke for his falsehood and treachery, and an order never again to enter the palace. At the same time he commanded him to send him the next morning $800 with 500 more, which he did, and which were, by the viceroy's order, distributed amongst the hospitals. His Excellency is said to have added a severe reprimand to the lady for having made a bargain without writing. Another story which I recollect is as follows. A poor Indian appeared before the viceroy and stated that he had found in the street a bag full of golden ounces, which had been advertised with the promise of a handsome reward to the person who should restore them to the owner; that upon carrying them to this Don he had received the bag, counted the ounces, extracted two which he had seen him slip into his pocket, and had then reproached the poor man with having stolen part of the money, and called him a thief and a rascal, and instead of rewarding had driven him from the house. With the viceroy there was no delay. Immediate action was his plan. Detaining the Indian, he dispatched an officer to desire the attendance of Don with his bag of ounces. He came, and the viceroy desired him to relate the circumstances, his practised eye reading his falsehood at a glance. "May it please your Excellency, I lost a bag containing gold. The Indian now in your Excellency's presence brought it to me in hopes of a reward, having first stolen part of its contents. I drove him from the house as a thief, who instead of recompense deserves punishment." "Stay," said the viceroy, "there is some mistake here. How many ounces were there in the bag you lost?" "28." "And how many are here?" "But 26. Count them down. I see it as you say. The case is clear, and we have all been mistaken." "Had this Indian been a thief, he would never have brought back the bag, and stolen merely 2 ounces. He would have kept the whole. It is evident that this is not your bag, but another which this poor man has found. Sir, our interview is at an end. Continue to search for your bag of gold, and as for you, friend, since we cannot find the true owner, sweep up these 26 pieces and carry them away. They are yours." So saying, his Excellency bowed out the discomforted cheat and the overjoyed rustic. Mr. says that this story, he thinks, is taken from something similar in an Oriental tale. However, it may have occurred twice. A horrible murder took place in 1789, during the viceroyaltyship of Revillagigedo, which is remarkable in 2 particulars, the trifling circumstances which led to its discovery, and the energy displayed by the viceroy, contrasting strongly with the tardy execution of justice in our days. There lived in Mexico at that period, in the street of Cordovanes, number 15, a rich merchant of the name of Don Joaquin Dongo. A clerk named José Joaquin Blanco, who had formerly been in his office, having fallen into vicious courses, and joined in companionship with 2 other young men, Felipe Aldama and Baltazar Quintero, gamblers and cockfighters, with reverence be it spoken, like himself, formed, in concert with them, a plan for robbing his former master. They accordingly repaired to the house one evening when they knew that Dongo was from home, and imitating the signal which Blanco knew the coachman was in the habit of making to the porter when the carriage returned at night, the doors were immediately thrown open, and the robbers entered. The porter was their first victim. He was thrown down and stabbed. A postman, who was waiting with letters for the return of the master of the house, was the next, and then the cook, and so on, until 11 lay weltering in their blood. The wretches then proceeded to pick the locks of the different bureaus, guided by Blanco, who, in his former capacity, had made himself au fait of all the secrets of the house. They obtained $22,000 in specie, and about